Hello, good afternoon and welcome to New Forest Morphs. Today Jared and I are looking at our girls from last season and how they're doing and how they're being reconditioned. The thing that triggered this was that we've got a couple of breeders that are looking at buying some of our girls from last year that we're not planning to breed this year. And I think in the hobby it's important to distinguish the ones that you've had from the previous years when it's time to move them on. And I think that serves two purposes. Number one, instead of producing the same clutches each year, you provide those mature girls to people that you trust that will be able to start their projects and give them a kickstart. So I think it's a lovely thing. And there's a theory I have which is we can either be a reservoir or we can be a river. Now reservoirs serve the purpose of actually holding water for a rainy day, being there for us. There's nothing wrong with having a reservoir, but a lot of the time a reservoir is full of water and it's still and it goes stale. A bit like the Dead Sea really. If you look at the Dead Sea, the reason why it's so dead is because there's no outflow and inflow of fresh water and it's salt water. And I think us as individuals and as breeders it's important to kind of have more of a river model, which means that resources flow through us and it blesses other people. So if you actually have a river approach to life, is as you get blessed in your life, as you build up resources, if you just hoard them and leave them sat there, they'll just be no good to anybody. And the idea is to actually, when you are getting blessed with resources, is to actually bless other people coming through. So for example, Jared and I could make the decision to put in the fans ourselves. We're talking about upgrading the fan system in our facility. We had a quote come back from our electrician today and he's quoted 750 quid to get 2 inline fans and all the ducting material, fitting all the controls, drilling the holes in the walls, putting in the grids. Now Jared and I could probably do it for half the price. It would take time and it would take effort on our side, but this electrician's been very good to us and he's done a great job on the house. And what basically I've done, Jared, is I've just asked him, what type of materials, can you give me a breakdown of the materials and the labour? Can you give me a breakdown of the quality of the materials? Because I looked online and some of these inline fans you can get for like 60-70 quid each. We're getting 2. If he's going for the low end, that's 150 quid worth of materials, plus probably another £100 worth of materials. So there could be £200 or £300 worth of materials. And he's charging £300 or £400 for his labour. If he comes in and does the job within 3 hours, then he's earning 100 quid an hour. So therefore, that wouldn't be reasonable. But if you've got a situation where the materials are £400 or £500 and they're high quality and they're more going to last, so I think on that quote, I've asked him to break it down before we commit to that, and then we'll be able to see whether that as a resource is fair and reasonable, and then that will give his family some income, that will give him throughput, and then we can focus on our main businesses, which are accountancy, which is where we're making our money. But obviously every time we do things ourselves, we're breaking away from our main business to do them. So although it sounds efficient to do it yourself, sometimes it pays to get other people to do it. They get blessed with some income, you save your time and you can generate income elsewhere. So it's all about getting that balance right, Jared, and it's true of the hobby, but most of us are in a situation where we do as much as we can because things are tight out there, but competitive. The other good news is I've got some roof work that needs doing on our holiday let, and that came in very competitively. So we're all trying to balance our cash flow at the moment, and it's not easy. And I know a lot of people out there, Jared, are probably experiencing losses this year because they're not generating as much sales and their costs are going up. Of course, being accountants and being around for 30 years, we realise that some people may not realise that the losses can potentially be offset against other income. So when you're in a hobby business, it's sometimes very difficult to know whether or not, how do you approach it on your personal tax return. And the general rule is that if you're generating under £1,000 worth of income, you don't necessarily have to declare that on your tax return. So if your sales are under £1,000, and it's a hobby, the revenue aren't interested in that. But most of us probably are generating more than 1,000, and therefore there may be a need to file a tax return, and that can be daunting for someone that's never filed a tax return before. And so the thing I'd say is not to worry or to panic, but there are ways that we can help in terms of filing those returns, and Jared and I can give support to people in the community, Jared, with our expertise and reassure them that there is a way of doing it, and there's different ways of doing your accounts and how you set yourself up. So you could be a sole trader, it could be a partnership, it could be a limited company. There's lots of different ways of going. We trade as a limited company, don't we, Jared? And we've incurred losses for the last 3 or 4 years because we've been putting so much money into this business, and we're only just starting to generate some income to recover some of the investment we've made. And you've got to work out things like, how do you classify, your tubs, all the fixtures and fittings that you've put in here. These are costing me £1,000 each, and we've got like about 12 of them. There's 12 to 15 grand's worth of what I call plant and equipment. Now, there's different ways of classifying that for tax. So whether that's a write-off in the first year, or whether you capitalise it and depreciate it over time. So there are some accounting things that we would advise our clients on how to deal with that. The structure of building the facility, what happens there? Do we actually have that as a tax write-off, or is that going to be offset against any future sale of the business? So there's all these things that need to be considered and weighted up. But that's where a professional accountant can come in and support you, so you haven't got to worry about what expense you can deduct and what you can deduct and what you can't. But also there's lots of other expenses that we incur that you may not have considered, which will help reduce your tax liabilities. So I think the most important thing is to be transparent with the revenue and to let them know what you're doing, to have a professional accountant that can represent you if there are any issues, that you can iron them out. And I think this is what Jared and I are able to assist the people within the industry. These are things that we can do to help and maybe take away some of the worries that people have out there. But like I say, there's lots of different ways of doing it. If you've got big long-term plans of where you're taking your business, it's worth doing a business plan, and in the business plan we can work out the tax strategies, how to effectively plan ahead for your taxes and how to mitigate against tax liabilities, what you can do and how to structure things. Got to be carefully thought through. But so these are things that Jared and I do in our full-time employment. We come in here 2 or 3 hours a day to run this side of things. We do have another family and his partner coming this afternoon who wants to get into looking at picking up some breeder girls from us. So what Jared and I are doing is we're trying to make a decision as which ones are we going to let go, which ones are we going to keep. The ones that we keep, we've got to make sure we're putting in a high quality boy to them to get the genetics up, because the market's demanding higher genetics for lower prices. So if you've got a model where you're producing the same thing year in, year out, your revenue stream is going to go down. So what you've got to do is maybe consider investing or bringing on a grown boy and then plugging those into your existing girls, if you're going to keep them, to get the genetics up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little bit of snake candy as we do this. We're going to go into some of the girls, see how they're progressing, see what we can do with them going forward, because this is planning time now before the breeding season starts. I'm going to start off with Shadow, so come and join us, Jared. Let's have a look and see how your girl is doing. What I'll do is I might bring her out to the table, Jared, might be the easiest thing. So let's bring out Shadow. Now she's a super cinnamon that we produced, what, 3-4 years ago, Jared? Mm-hmm. Self-produced. She's a lovely girl. She was supposed to give us our first clutch of last year, and she ended up actually giving us slugs, didn't she? Mm-hmm. But she has bounced back really well. Now if I turn her around this way, so you can see how she is very gentle, beautiful animal, but the super cinnamon gives a lovely deep dark brown snake with various ringers, various gold marking and speckling, and she's one of your favourite snakes, Jared, and I don't think we'd want to sell her because I think we're very attached to her.
I'd keep her as a pet in my house if we ever had to get rid of her.
Yeah, because with the super cinnamons it's quite rare to get one that's so beautifully formed like this, because they sometimes have issues when you actually put cinnamon to cinnamon, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend trying to produce a super cinnamon because a lot of them can be kinked. A lot of them can also turn out with duck billing and other issues, but we're very blessed to have a beautiful example here. Now I think the reason why she slugged out is because we had a temperature issue last year on her, and I think she was sitting on hot temps. So what we've done as a strategy this year is we've dropped the temperature down to 86, so that if we do get heat spikes or issues, the temperature lift will go up to about 91 max, and when you start getting into the 92s and 93s, if you've sat on too much heat, it can destroy the sperm within her, and it can destroy the fertilization issues. So therefore I don't think it's genetic that this clutch didn't go well for us last year. I think it probably was a temperature spike in honesty, and we've had quite a few girls that have had issues with slugs this last year, and I think a lot of it's to do with temps more than anything else. This year we've dialed it in So I'm hoping that we'll have less slugs on the next season. So Jared, what would you consider putting to this beautiful girl here in terms of our boys? Because she's going to guarantee cinnamon. She's carrying the pied markings. We know she's 100% Hetford pied. To me, it makes sense to put a high-end pied boy to her. So we were just talking about our first project, the banana leopard clown pied boy, Bingo. Now he's carrying clown, so we could put Bingo into this girl, and we could end up with banana, leopard, cinnamon, clown pieds that are 100% Hetford clown. Which could be quite powerful.
Does leopard pieds, they're quite high pattern, aren't they?
They are.
So does that counteract the cinnamon?
No, because the cinnamon pied's quite low, high white too. So you'd end up with.
Oh wait, no, I said high pattern for the leopard. Or are they high white?
I think some leopard pieds are actually quite high white, so you'd end up with a situation where you could end up with a head pattern and nothing else.
That's the only problem with the cinnamons. That's why when you get inchy in there, or yellow belly.
Having said that, I have to show you an exception to the rule, because there's always exceptions to the rule. And this guy's a really beautiful boy, and this is Pastel. And again, he was part of a clutch that was about a year or so ago. We had some animals that had unfortunately shark jaw, and he's perfect in every respect, but he's a pastel cinnamon pied boy. And if you look at him, Jared, he does eat, but he does have a shark jaw there, doesn't he? So you can actually produce cinnamon pies that have more pattern, but there's a bit more pattern to this boy here. The father of these animals, who's one of our original boys, is actually becoming available, and he is a cinnamon pastel pied. And the person that's coming this afternoon is thinking about taking him under his wing, and we've given him a special price. But they are our pets as well, and so it is quite hard to let go of these pets. But in reality, is you have to really consider the space you have, your projects, and you have to maybe find good homes for them, that they're going to be looked after. But also they've got strong genetics for the new breeders coming in. So when you're making that decision, it's not just a question of money, it's a question about the welfare of your pets, it's about the welfare of the animal, and it's also about helping these new breeders coming on who are learning, and they can make mistakes, and your beautiful pets can end up getting ill if you're not careful. So you've got to be careful when you're presenting these animals to new breeders coming in, that they, and I think what we'll probably end up doing is maybe sell a couple of snakes at a time, see how he gets on with the 2 snakes, and then as he progresses, maybe encourage him to take up another 2 and slowly build the collection to make sure he's getting the hang of what he's doing. So these are all good considerations. So the options we have for shadow, Jared, let's just think about it. We've got this boy over here, which powerfully very genetic, Bingo. And you can see that the banana and the leopard, actually he's got quite a lot of pattern on him, really. But if you were to put him into this girl here, we'll get some cracking looking pieds, but we get banana, leopard, cinnamon pieds, which could look really beautiful. 100% Hetford clown. It will build your clown pie projects, Jared.
Yeah.
So it could be a call to consider. Yeah. So now, any other boys, Jared, that we've got high-end boys that are actually... What was the original pairing last year that we were shooting for?
I just don't remember.
Bowser. We put Bowser. We were trying to get...
Oh, cinnamon in the dream
100%
school.
cinnamon in the dream school. Now, we've already produced cinnamon pastel yellow belly pieds that we put out, what was it, yesterday's video. And when we look at these, I think we've got enough cinnamon pieds. We were blessed to get really good odds, so even though she didn't go, we had a visual cinnamon pied pastel girl that went for us, that gave us those, and that was Mayu. And we've got to consider what we do with Mayu, but you've got the genetics that you wanted from Bowser in there, because she's het for June school as well.
She's het love.
So I don't think we should put the June school boy to this girl, because all we're doing is repeating what we have. We have to really think carefully about what do we need to progress our projects, and how can we best utilise these animals. And I would personally think that we don't have cinnamon into the Ultramel project. So if you bring out Colt, let's have a look at Colt, Jared, and see whether he could be a suitable candidate here for a boy, and whether we decide to get guaranteed cinnamon into this project here. So then let's have a little look and see whether this could work. So that could be a potential pairing there. So you'd end up with pieds, but they'll all be cinnamon pieds, but you'd also be 100% het for ultramel. And I think the cinnamon and the ultramel would be a beautiful combination. Again, we'd have a look at some pictures to see whether that might be a suitable pairing. And going on Morph Market, Jared, is the key. See whether anyone's produced a cinnamon ultramel. They produced leopard ultramels, which are beautiful, and I think getting leopard into this would be good. And that's why I was saying that bingo would be nice, because then once you've got the leopard going into the pied and we produce a girl, we could then bring the ultramel boy in at later stages. So it's all about getting your building blocks and your orders right. The other high-end male we've got, which I think I'd like to explore, Thor, who I've built up specially to do a bigger job this year. He only gave us 1 clutch last year and we've had him 4 years. He's been a bit of a lazy boy. But I've been purposely giving him extra energy and meals, giving him multis every week to get him strong and get him really to the point where if we do put him to several clutches, he can sustain that, because I really want to get him Xanthic into a lot of our collection, Jared. So if we look over here, this boy could also be a possibility to get into the project. So let's have a little look and see whether that could work. Now he's already carrying dark genes, she's carrying dark genes. We'll have another look on the internet and see how the cinnamon Xanthics look, Jared, and that might be worth a call. Yeah. So everything would then be a good chance that half of them would be pied, and then they'd all carry the het VPI Xanthic. So
they'd all be cinnamon.
And they'd all be cinnamon. So you'd end up with some beautiful cinnamon pieds that are carrying that het Xanthic again. So that's another consideration. Any other pied boys that you can think of, Jared, that might be of interest going forward for this girl? But we've certainly got 3 boys to consider.
You want something with a few codoms in it, really.
Yeah.
Because we've got so many just cinnamon pieds on their own, but we don't need any more of those.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to use it as a building block for something.
Sure. We've got cinnamon clowns. So it's really a question of, we have got the Desert Ghost boy, which is a Desert Ghost pied. Now the question is, what does cinnamon and Desert Ghost look like? Desert Ghost and cinnamon, does it actually add anything to that? So we've also got Tattoo here, who's a possibility. Now again, he's only small at the moment. He needs a lot more building before we even consider putting this boy to her. Now if you look carefully here,
I think he's probably quite close.
he's not far away, but I think that I'd rather build him a bit more, Jared, because he's got a job to do with some of our Desert Ghost hets, and therefore I don't think he'd be well utilised here, bearing in mind he might only go to 2 or 3 girls once he's big enough. So my feeling is maybe not to consider him in this project. So
I think we'll have to do a little bit of research and find out what looks best, and then
I think so. But I think doing these kind of videos and these kind of sessions gives us the food for thought as to where we're going to look. And sometimes if you go through and actually look at the practicalities of what you have and what you can breed, it might just trigger something. And even if 4 out of the 5 aren't really goers, one of them might just hit a light bulb might go off and say, yeah, that's worth looking at. To me, I think the Xanthic's probably the most likely to go into this girl, because I want to darken the Xanthic. So I'm thinking if the Xanthic boy would lock with her, we could then produce some Xanthic cinnamons, which I think could be really interesting. But we also want to know that Pastel makes everything pop as well, so we've got to think about the Pastel side of things.
Pastel and cinnamon I don't think look that good together though.
No. But in Xanthic they do, because when you look at a Pastel
Pastel
Xanthic,
pops in Xanthic.
so what I'm saying to you is, if you look at some of our Pastel Xanthics, so we've got I think we've got a couple of animals that are Pastel Xanthic, Pastel cinnamons.
Yeah, we've got a couple.
I mean, we've just produced some more this time. I mean, the other thing, of course, is we've got some boys that are actually carrying some nice genetics that in a year's time we could consider plugging in. But I think we're going to think carefully about this girl. Let's see how best to use her super cinnamon powers. You want to find a genetic that definitely needs cinnamon to make it really pop. And you can see she's bowl wrapping and building, so I don't think she'll be far off, but I would like to see what we could achieve this following year from her. Very powerful animal. The other option is to get a Mahogany what we should really be thinking about, because originally this project was the Panda Pie project.
Yeah.
Now the Panda Pie project, it's easy to take your eye off your original focus. We were doing all this because we wanted to get some Panda Pies. Now even though Panda Pies have come down in value, they are beautiful still. And people are putting Mahogany Pies in, so what we could do is source a Mahogany Pied boy and then plug a Mahogany Pied boy into there to get not the Sumer Pied, but it'll be Mahogany plus the Cinnamon Pied. That will then give you a similar look to the Panda Pied, but it won't give you the kinking issues and other issues. So that's the other thing, Jared, is when we do our research on buying in any new boys, it might be worth considering the Mahogany Pied or the Sumer Pied boys. If they come down in price, it could be a very powerful option, because we've got so many cinnamon girls. We could use that to quite a few of our cinnamon girls to get what we call close to a Panda Pied without all the kinking issues. So that could be worth thinking about. Let's move on to another girl now. So we're just going to work our way through. We've got Curiosity. Now, Curiosity gave us, and she's given us 2 eggs that are due in 4 days. In fact, before we get Curiosity out, let's just have a look and see how these eggs are doing. We've checked our temps are all good, even though the temps in the UK are dropping. We've got a couple of eggs that could give us a super pastel exantic clown. Chances are normally 1 in 16. We've got 2 eggs. I was worried that one of them wasn't fertile, and I thought we could end up getting an egg that's going to die on us. The reality is we've got 2 eggs that seem to be alive, because look how clean they are, Jared. They are starting to dimple. They are due in 4 days, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to just take our time. We're not going to rush into doing an egg cut. I'd like to see them pipping first, Jared. So we should have next week our final clutch 30 coming, or I think this is clutch 30. Yeah, clutch 30 is coming. We've got basically 2 chances out of 16 to hit what we really wanted to hit. Now if we do hit a male killer exantic clown, he'll answer the question which I was going to pose to Jared, which is how can we utilise the Curiosity to more effect? Now she's a double het pastel, double het exantic VPI clown. We've been putting another double het to her over the last 2 seasons and having terrible odds and terrible egg production and infertile eggs and issues. So I do think it's time to maybe either buy an exantic het clown boy or clown het exantic boy that we can put into her to help improve the odds and get the project off the ground, because we've been 4 years in the making here and not going very far. And I think this is the reality, is when we have our best laid out plans and we think, yeah, we're going to do this, going to do that, the reality is there are issues, things don't go when you expect, there are issues. So I'll put these eggs back, Jared, but I think the reality is that we need to think, let's see what happens here first before we make a decision as to whether we then invest in a higher end boy to go to that project, because I think it is an important part of our project that's going to feed into other projects, because everything feeds into the ultimate plan. Right, we've just got time for one more girl, Jared. Is there any other girls that you would like to discuss as we get into our planning side? I mean, what I could say is maybe let's discuss the ones that we're looking to sell. So Celeste, she's being rebuilt at the moment. She gave us a lovely clutch, and I think we don't want to breed with her, so we're thinking of making this available, and we've got a guy coming this afternoon that might be keen to buy her from her. But she's the yellow belly pastel phantom girl. She's carrying 3 incomplete dominants, but if you put a high-end boy into her, those 3 incomplete dominants go into your project. So even though you might think, oh, she's probably not worth more than 100 quid, the reality is that if you put the right boy to her, the offspring will put 3 incomplete dominants into that project, and therefore never write off girls that aren't carrying any hets. Is actually they can be powerful. The same is with Venus is becoming available, so the guy that's coming might take Venus off us. Now she was going into shed, whether she still is, Jared, I don't know.
She's in shed.
She's in
I
shed.
wet her down earlier.
You've wet her down. Now she's carrying quite a few genes. Spot nose, popular gene. She's a pastel twilight, which means she's pastel spot nose cinnamon. 3 gene girl. Powerful animal, okay, you might sell her for £100. but that gives that new breeder a chance to get genetics and an established girl that will give him a clutch, which if he gets the right boy, and then we've got a couple of boys that we're looking to sell to him. We've got Houdini, which is a phantom Mojave het ultra male, and the other girl that we're thinking of selling is this one here, which I think he's keen to buy from us, is Zag. So if we look at her, she is a beautiful example of a bamboo, but she is also het for ultramel. Now if she's got ultramel in her and the boy that we're selling's got ultramel, he's got a chance of hitting some ultramel bamboos. Now we can show you how beautiful they are, because we've got a baby that we didn't bring out yesterday that's worth showing, who is an ultramel bamboo boy, who's absolutely gorgeous.
He was born white.
Yeah, the bamboo's coming through. Just have a look at him. You come, take the shade away from the light. Let's come around the other side. You can see how beautiful he is. So that's lovely. And I don't know whether we've got any more time, but how much time do we have, Jack?
You've got 4 minutes.
4 minutes left. So we've got 4 minutes. So what we could do is we could also show you some of our other hatchlings that have come on from last year, which I'm building up. Now, Shuru and Yorker. So one of them's a bamboo girl, talking of bamboo. They're both Exantic, and we're not sure which Exantic it is.
I think it's most likely VPI.
She's going into shed, so she needs some water. I'm hoping it's VPI, but we've got here two Exantics that came from one of our original bamboos that we put to her son, who was obviously carrying the same Exantic, which he didn't even know about. Isn't it interesting? They're both shedding together.
She'd shed.
I think she's going into shed, yeah. So,
I think it's just their colour.
Yeah. I can see them just darkening up, but they are beautiful. But these are two girls that we're going to keep for our future projects. Now they won't be ready for at least another 12 months because they're only a couple of years up, coming up for a couple of years old. But it's amazing how you get them up to 700-800 grams. They can go from 700 to 1500 quite quickly because the prey item goes up, their feeding instincts kick in, and they sense the rhythm of the room. When other girls start building their follicles, the younger girls pick up on all this and they realise that this is part of the rhythm of the room, is that you get the sub-adults that are starting to show an interest in their development too. So two beautiful snakes, and again Jad and I are keen to get them into the larger rubs. The other advantage of selling the older snakes is that it frees up space for the sub-adults to come up and grow and build. So there you go, you've got two more beautiful females that are going to come into the rotation. And this is the nice thing about the hobby, is that once you get going after year 5, the babies that you produced say 2 years ago are going to start to replace some of the females that you started off with 5 years earlier. And the key is to learn to build up the community, to rotate your stock, to bring on the new stuff and to get those genetics up. So I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you, Jared, for being the cameraman today and for your input. We will go through some of the other girls another time, but have a lovely weekend. We've got some special things happening. We've got family visiting. Mandy and I celebrate our 33 years anniversary, which is going to be on Saturday. So we're looking forward to having a wonderful time together, family celebrating that. And it's important to remember that with resources, be the river that flows. Give those resources to the people that are coming into your community. The more we serve, the more we bless other people, the more we help one another. Together we're stronger if we're unified in the approach to this hobby in all aspects of our life. So I'd like to thank Jared for being my son and being a partner with me in this business, because without Jared I don't think we'd be anywhere near where we are. And he's very, very enjoyable to work with, Jared. So it's my privilege to work with you as well, Jared, going forwards. And we're looking forward to getting to meet some new people in the industry, new characters, new connections, new networking, and it will help us with our marketing. We can help each other. We might have skills and strengths in different areas, but coming together we can help each other on this journey, and there's no need to fear. There are professional people that can help in tax, there's professional people that can help with issues of law, there's professional people that can help in so many other areas, and I think it's important to build those communities, which I'm really excited about. And we will talk about when we built this facility, there were some issues and we had to go to the council because we are a listed building here, and we built this within the permitted planning permission, not realising that on a listed building you don't get the same permitted planning permission as you would if you were not listed. So we ended up, the council spoke to them before we built it, saying it's okay to build this facility, and they said it would be, but in the end it wasn't. But we had a great result in the end, and I'll tell you all about it in the